All right, let's jump right in. In the world of politics and power, we hear two words thrown around all the time: recognition and legitimacy. And honestly, most of us use them like they're the same thing, but they're not. Not even close. A government can have one without the other, and once you get that difference, a whole lot of modern diplomacy just clicks into place. So I've got a question for you right off the bat. One of these terms is a cold, calculated political decision made by other countries. The other is all about whether the people being governed actually buy into the government's right to rule. Any idea which is which? Stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll know for sure, and you'll see why it's such a big deal. And this is probably the best way to visualize it. On one side, you've got recognition. Think of it like an official stamp of approval from the outside world. And on the other side, there's legitimacy, which comes from the inside, from the people themselves. These are our two core ideas. Let's break them down. Okay, first up, recognition. And let's be super clear here, this has nothing to do with whether a country likes another government. It's a purely practical political decision. So what does that actually mean? Well, when one state recognizes another, all it's really saying is, you're the people we're going to talk to. You're the ones we sign treaties with, trade with, and call when things get messy. It's about opening a channel for business. It's a handshake, not a hug. And recognition has some really specific traits. First, it's external. It's something other countries give to you. It's also bilateral, meaning it's a decision between just two states. There's no global committee handing this out. And this is the most important part. It's 100% political. It's a strategic choice, not some moral duty or legal requirement. All right, so we've looked at the view from the outside in. Now, let's flip that entirely and look from the inside out. Let's talk about legitimacy. Legitimacy is all about the right to rule. It asks a simple question: do the people of a country believe their government has the authority to lead them? It's not just about who has the most power. It's about who has the people's consent. And look, legitimacy can come from all sorts of places. Sure, free and fair elections are a huge source of it, but it can also come from just broad public support, or from being really good at your job, providing security, keeping the lights on. Sometimes it even comes from a sense of history, that this is the way things have always been. It's a much more human concept. So now we have our two separate ideas. One's external, political, the other is internal, social. The real light bulb moment happens when you realize they aren't just different, they're answering two totally different questions. And here it is. Recognition asks a really practical question: who do we need to talk to get things done? It's all about finding the right address for diplomatic mail. Legitimacy, though, asks a much deeper, more fundamental question: who actually has the right to be in charge here? One is about what's practical, the other is about what's accepted as right. And this is where it all gets really interesting. The most complicated, high-stakes situations in global politics happen right in the gap where these two ideas don't overlap. Let's jump into those gray areas. Okay, first up, picture an authority that has the support of its people. It has legitimacy, but the rest of the world basically pretends it doesn't exist. This creates what experts call a de facto authority, a government, in fact, even if it's not recognized in law. They're the ones actually running the show. They control territory, they collect taxes, they run the schools, they keep order. To the people living there, they are the government. They are legitimate. But on the world stage, they're diplomatic ghosts. Now, let's flip that scenario completely. What happens when a government has all the international recognition in the world, but its own citizens think it has no right to rule? And this happens way more often than you'd think. A government in exile might still hold its country's seat at the UN, or maybe a deeply unpopular regime stays afloat because powerful allies keep recognizing it for their own strategic reasons. They've got the official stamp, the international backing, but back home they're ruling on shaky ground without the true consent of the people. So you might be wondering, why this messy separation? Why not just link them together? Well, because for diplomats, this distinction isn't a problem. It's a powerful and incredibly useful tool. This is basically the diplomatic playbook. A country can talk to a government it really doesn't like by saying, "We recognize you as the authority, but we are not saying you're legitimate." Or they can punish a popular movement by refusing to recognize them, cutting them off from the world. Or they can just play a waiting game, dangling the promise of recognition as a bargaining chip to get what they want. It's all about leverage. So let's just bust a couple of common myths right here. The biggest one is that recognition means approval. It absolutely does not.
It's a practical tool, period. And on the flip side, just because a government is popular and legitimate at home, it doesn't mean other countries are forced to recognize it. They're two totally separate games.
So if you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this simple but powerful idea. Recognition does not equal legitimacy. One is an external political choice. The other is an internal social acceptance of authority. They live on different planets. And that brings me to a final thought for you. The next time you look at a world map, with all its neat lines and solid colors, just ask yourself, what's really going on inside those borders? What messy, complicated stories about power, consent, legitimacy, and recognition are being hidden by those clean, simple lines?